I'm Larry Souder, and welcome to Souder Friends. From 1966 to 1976, the Chinese government decided the best way to control its citizens was to destroy the country's youth. It was called the China Cultural Revolution. One man who lived through it and eventually became a world-famous eye surgeon in America was Dr. Ming Wang. He shared his story with me before a live audience. Here is part 2 of my interview with Dr. Ming Wang, From Darkness to Sight. What overwhelmed you when you first stepped off the plane or went to the university?
The freedom or lack of in China then. Because I arrived at American universities, I realized that you have to make your own way, and we all dressed in a formally dressed suit. My parents spent 2 years of their salary, bought the suit for me, so I came around. But then we were so formally dressed in American campuses, we were being laughed at. So we said, we got to dress the American way. So I didn't have money, I have like $15 left. So I budget $10. I've got to get some American clothing. So with $10, we went to Salvation Army, and I got a whole trash bag of used clothes. And I brought the whole trash bag home. I dressed up, really looked like American, and show up on American university campus the next day. But I was laughed at more by other students because the clothing I was wearing was the clothes people wore like 15 years prior. So with bell bottoms and takoyaki shirts, so I turned from a yuppie to a hippie.
You were discriminated against, as I read through your book, by some professors. Can you tell me about that?
Yes, I met this professor who was my thesis advisor, and he just didn't believe a student from, another country like China would have the intellectual aptitude to succeed in American universities. So he was making fun of me, and I was doing experiment very successfully, physics experiment, laser physics, and he said, "Oh, there's nothing. Look, you're just doing precision cooking in a laboratory. You should deserve to be just a cook in a Chinese restaurant or something." But that discrimination energized me. Rather than feeling down and depressed, and actually energized me. I realized that I need to prove myself that I can do it. And so the discrimination was not a negative to me, but it became an energizing positive force. And I studied even harder. In many ways, I feel today in American society, lots of kids, they say, "Oh, I was born in a bad situation and I couldn't get out." And I want to tell all these students that it's life you can look at as a half empty, a bottle with half water, or half full. Look at the life as half full. Look at the positive energy you can derive from however people have treated you. Because you can make it. You can make it if you believe in yourself. Using discrimination, all these adversities as a positive drive to prove oneself. You can get out of those difficult situations if one focused on education. After I came to this country, I realized that the foundation of this great country, the reason why there's such a precious freedom that was not available in communist China during Cultural Revolution, and is still not available in so much parts of the world, even today, the freedom and choice. I realized that the fundamental reason that the freedom and choice have taken root in this country, America, was because of God. Was because God has inspired people in America to not tolerate tyranny, dictator, to want and to desire freedom and choice. So I became curious about who God is. How did he inspire the people in America to want to implant the seed of freedom in this land over 200 years ago, way ahead of its time? And so I was doing experiment in the universities, and I was trying to get a little laser experiment to work. For a long time we couldn't. And finally I said, God, if you really exist, this is time for you to show. Can you make these two atoms with laser collide? And I was not really serious because I didn't have very much exposure to Christian faith, but there was one prayer that I said in the midst of the experiment, and I put my head down. I said, God, make the atom appear. And I look into the little window where the atoms with the laser beam was colliding. And gosh, there's a yellow dot appear out of nowhere. To me, it is so beyond everything I've known. It was an impossible situation that have failed so many times. And the only difference, that the experiment succeeded that moment, because I dared to dream, dared to open my mind to the possibility of the existence of God.
In part 3 of my interview with Dr. Ming Wang, you'll hear how a professor opened his eyes to the possibility of the existence of God. I'm Larry Souder, and that's Souder and Friends.